various areas, make sure that the leadership recruitment process is properly done, and continue to talk about issues that are of paramount importance to the nation. We'll try to keep them in the front burner and contribute our own quota to see how we can help the government of the day. One, make better decisions. Two, ensure that the decisions are well communicated and the people are aware of what is going on. So today, we have had series of speakers over the last couple of weeks. So today we're going to be having an open mic discussing national issues. In Nigeria, there are a torrent of issues happening, almost 2 a week or 3 a week. And there may be some issues that we really want to talk about, but we haven't gotten speakers to come and speak to those issues. So today will be an opportunity for you to air your view on the things that really bother you. We're going to collate all of this, and we'll see how we can use, because whatever we discuss on this platform, somehow it is summarized, and we publish them in some national dailies, and hopefully some people at the helm of affairs are reading what we are saying. So today, just be ready to share your thoughts and what you think we should be discussing, or what are the paramount national issues to you as of now. The way today is going to roll is going to be a lot of contributions. We'll give people opportunity to speak, since we say it's an open mic, to say what's on your mind. And we are discussing national issue. You know, these issues varied. They range from either the weak economy that Nigeria is operating in, struggling at the moment. Insecurity has continued to be an issue in most parts of the country. Good governance, over which there was a recent protest by youths and the not so young alike in recent time. Recently also the issue of constitution and constitutionalism. We saw the group led by Emeka Anyaoku to the president to tell him that what we need at this time, in their view, is that we should convoke a national conference where the people of Nigeria can agree on the constitution that works for them. Is that what we think we need at this moment? It's an issue that we need to talk about. We also know that the issue of the local government autonomy that the Supreme Court recently passed a judgment on. I was also hearing recently that there's a negotiation going on between the federal and state government to defer the implementation of that particular pronouncement. Now, Supreme Court had made a pronouncement that should take effect immediately. But now some governors are pushing back, and I think the president, like I heard anyone on the platform can confirm, is trying to slow down the process to say that we can probably defer that. And then there's the issue of the traditional rulers. What is their role really in today's governance? You all saw that when the good governance protest was about to start, the government, kept getting traditional rulers from all over the place. We even had an inauguration of southern traditional rulers, which, to best of my knowledge, they weren't in existence before, but that was the first time. What is their role? What can they possibly do for us? And then, you have the religious leaders as well, some of them speaking up what is actually their role. How effective has the church and the mosque and all the other religious institutions be in helping to shape the direction that the country is going? For me, before I hand over to Jumoke to moderate the session, something that I really, really wanted to highlight is the myriad of promises and investigations that are going on to no end In Nigeria, we have several investigations, several pronouncements by government. We will get back to you, and that's the end of the matter. Nobody ever takes the matter beyond that. You know, if you go to the EFCC website, there are cases that have been there for close to 20 years, you know, whether they are open or they are not open. Meanwhile, the individuals involved, some of them are in government, some of them were in government, came out of government, went back into government, and the case is still open. The case of Betta Edu is one that is still outstanding. Nobody is saying anything. And how can we get our leaders to speak to us intermittently on issues that we really want to quiz them on? I give you an example. In the US, I mean, not so much Biden, but when Obama and what was the other man, Trump, were in government, you will see that apart from the press house corps that gets regular briefing, either from the press secretary to the president, and occasionally the president comes in there, whenever they are traveling, either going to enter Air Force One or so, the press people usually hijack them and ask them some very pertinent questions. And they are able to give responses not through any intermediary. But in Nigeria, whenever any of our elected officials want to speak to us, it has to be planned. They have to arrange it. It has to be a press conference. Can't we just relay them when they go for any occasion and the press people ask them questions that are bothering Nigerians? Let us hear from them directly, unscripted. So how can we have that kind of engagement? Because that's what we need. For instance, I'd like to ask President Bola Tinubu about Betta Edu, for instance. You suspended her some time ago. What is the state of the investigation? I don't need the EFCC chairman to tell me, you, President, suspended her. What is the state of the investigation and where are you taking it to? You know, those kind of things, we should be able to engage them. There are myriad of, and maybe we can also get the EFCC chairman sometimes on all the cases. Yaya Bello has a case against him. We don't know what is happening to that case. You know, there are several, almost all the governors that have ever served. If you go to the EFCC website, from Abdullahi Fattah Ahmed of Kwara State, to Gabriel Suswan of Benue, to Murtala Inyako of Adamawa, Temipre Silva of Bayelsa, Sule Lamido Jigawa, Ayo Fayoshe Ekiti, all of them we have, and you can see all of them. The cases are all there, current and ongoing corruption cases. This is Temipre Silva. What is the state of their case? You would see these are cases running into billions that they took from their states. Since the advent of democracy, we must have had over, at the minimum, maybe 70 governors in all the states, because there's no state that haven't had 2 to 3 governors, as it were. So we must have had close to 100 governors, everyone taking nothing less than 20 billion of their state money. At the end, why do we keep going around in this circle? What can be done? Fayoshe's case was a celebrated one. When EFCC were laying ambush waiting for him, and he said, don't worry, just give me time. I will come by myself. And on the day he was ready, he went there. Up till today, nothing has happened. This is Chimaroke Namani of Enugu State. EFCC is prosecuting him for 5.3 billion fraud. You know, where are we with that case? The press, like I say again, is not helping us. So sometimes we need to do something. And in my mind, I think we'll have a dashboard of corruption cases or outstanding promises from government. The current chairman of APC also have corruption cases. In fact, his own is the most interesting one, because just today, I mean, was it yesterday, the governor of Kano State said hoodlums broke into the courts or wherever it is that they kept the case file of Ganduje and they have carted it away. Now, what does that mean? He didn't tell us. So are you saying that everything about the case was kept in there? And as far as that case is missing, Abubakar Audu, he's late now. His case is also still outstanding. This is Benga Daniel. I think he's a senator, but he has case outstanding with the EFCC. Nobody talks about all these things. This is Saminu Turaki. Saminu Turaki's case, I'm very aware of because I know somebody that knows somebody that is close to him. And we are bankers. Anyway, let me not talk as when I was in the banking industry. Rochas Okorocha's case is another one, also with the EFCC. Ikedio Hakim, Imo State. You know, there are a myriad of cases. Jonah Jang. Was Jonah Jang the one that was, who was the Plateau State governor that was sentenced and was pardoned? It's not Jonah Jang. It's the other one after Jonah Jang. You know.
He was acquitted.
No, he wasn't acquitted though.
That's what the information says here. If you go back to the slide, it says the court acquitted Jang of the corruption charges levied against him.
No, not Jonah Jang. There's this other
Okay.
governor of Plateau State that he was actually jailed. They went as far as the Supreme Court and he was sentenced. It was Buhari that pardoned him. Buhari gave him state pardon. Spent all, I mean, if you look at the resources EFCC invested in prosecuting that guy, eventually they went through the trial court, went through the appeal court, went to the Supreme Court. EFCC was retaining funds to prosecute that case. And eventually they got a conviction. And this was Buhari that said he wanted to fight corruption. After they got the conviction, the guy spent, was it 6 months or how many months in jail, and he got state pardon.
Dave just put in the chat that it was Direye, and Mr. President is also in, is also in the room.
Okay, great, fantastic. Mr. President is in. So it was Direye, yeah. Ramalan Yaro Kaduna, he was another governor in Kaduna State. He has cases against him. So we have a mirage of cases, whether it is the one that police is investigating, the bombing in Ondo, one time that terrorists went, the breakout, the jailbreak in Abuja, all the various jailbreaks in Owerri, in Benin, and in all the other places. Nothing has been heard of those cases. We don't even want to talk about the NNDC case that Akpabio was involved in, that the MD came to the floor of the National Assembly and had to faint and all of that. All those cases are in the cooler. What has become of all of this? Why are we not asking more questions? Somehow we just seem to move on with every new thing that happens and we forget what has happened in the past. Willie Obiano was also invited. You know, he had a case when he left. Nobody ever wants to talk about any of these things. Nothing is concluded in Nigeria. The same thing happens to projects that government institutes and they are doing. We have several thousands of abandoned projects in Nigeria. Why is that so? So there are a myriad of issues that you may want to talk about. But for me, it's all these outstanding issues that nobody is talking about. And if we could conclude even half of these matters and recover some of those monies, it will help our failing economy. That is one area that we should be looking at. I hear the president is around. I will let him make some speech before we go on to the open mic. Maybe Jumoke will handle that. So that's my take so far. Pastor, if you are there, you can unmute yourself. If you have a take on current national issue, on what we discussed and how to go ahead. Pastor Etwa. All right. Until he comes on. All right. Pastor Etwa, you are muted.
He might be on the road. That's not
Okay.
so good.
All right, no problem. Jumoke, you can go ahead. I mean, so people may want to make
I can
contribution,
hear you
but
all, Lord. I can hear you.
okay, all right. Well done, sir. How is the
How now?
vacation? Fine. How are the vacation with the children?
It's going well. It's going well. I've
Okay.
just come in now from where did I even go, sir? Houston.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
knew you guys were in Houston last night.
I saw Jumoke there, but now I'm back in Baltimore.
Okay, all right. Jumoke came
Yeah.
to the event.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Okay. Go ahead anyway.
Okay, all right, great. You had some of my intro and what we are talking about, right? So, do you have anything to say? Okay, Jumoke, go ahead. Handle, let's get some feelers from people, what they want to talk about. It's an open mic day. Let's get your views on national issues, whatever is topical to you. It could be what I spoke about. It could be something that nobody has really given attention to. But that is why we are here today, to discuss any issue that is of importance to us. Jumoke, you moderate it. You allocate the number of minutes that each person should spend. If somebody else wants to contribute or speak on the back of what somebody have said, maybe we can allow that also. So I'll hand over to Jumoke now.
So thank you, Pastor Sonny. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for really laying the context, the background for it, and, setting the stage for how you've identified, like that's one of the cases, the EFCC cases. There are other issues, but maybe we'll focus on that one first. And we really want to look at resolution. What is the way forward? What are the recommendations? How do we, Pastor Sonny, I think, really gave a good summary of the challenges that we have with all these cases. So as we dialogue and as we speak, how do we move forward? How do we petition these cases? How do we reach out to EFCC to really, maybe, I don't want to say put pressure on them, but stay on the matter to make sure that it's not we're not being gaslighted, right? That at the end of the day, these things are just going to go into oblivion. Now it's something we'll never hear about again. So please raise your hand. I think we should have like a minute or two to speak. We also have a couple of videos that we're also going to that we are going to share as time goes on. So we have Mrs. Adetula. Please go ahead, unmute yourself and share your comment, and we'll keep it to no more than 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. I want to quickly recommend right now how the federal government is going to reorganize the Federal Ministry of Sports, because that is the most current thing going on. I can tell you for free, before your name will be submitted, you have to make some commitment to those officials that whatever allowance you are giving in Paris or anywhere, you will give them certain percentage. If you don't agree with them, your name will not appear. That sports minister must be called to order. That is, to me, is the most urgent one. Then the second one, the salaries and allowances of the guys in the Senate. They are telling us it's 1.5. And one of them came out and said it's 21 million every month, for God's sake. That is that. Then, is it possible for this body to invite the Minister of Finance to come and address us, or the EFCC chairman? Then the last one, the whistleblower. We have to look for how to protect the whistleblower and encourage, because I was one of the people who put it inside the AU Convention at mitigating corruption. The issue of whistleblower is without whistleblower, we cannot get anything done. And we have to continue putting pressure on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contributions. Go ahead, Mr. Akinleye.
Good morning, Ma. Good morning, everyone. Two things. I was thinking grassroots education on good governance. Like I think in the olden days, you know how people who always go to different compounds, they educate our mothers, our sisters on how to care for themselves and take care of children and things like that before they go to the hospitals. Similarly, if we start having forums on the grassroots level on good governance, maybe people will be so empowered in knowing fully how to vote for the right person. And then during that period of time, one can really expose or educate our people on the right person to choose for good governance. Because as soon as they get power, power corrupts and it corrupts everybody. The second thing is that, is it possible for us to be able to recommend to the government about those abandoned projects? They can put it together in the list and ask people from diaspora or foreign investors, whoever wants to take it. Otherwise, all these things are abandoned and they will be there forever. Those are the two things I want us to talk about.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And so abandoned projects for the government to put the list together, but could that also be a task for us as citizens to put together and then reach out to the government to question them on where those things are? So another thought. Go ahead, Ma. Professor Grange, please go ahead, Ma.
Thank you, Jumoke. The last speaker has taken us down to grassroots, and this is what I want to speak about. But I don't just want to speak about it. I want you, if possible, to illustrate it with the video that I sent to you, if you can, please. So whilst you are looking for that, I'll just say a few words about it. This is a video of the Prime Minister in Singapore talking about how they cleaned up their country with Lee Kuan Yew. And I think we all need to listen to it. It has to do with being honest, honesty as a value that is cherished. And not only being honest, but wanting honest people in governance. So I'll stop there and let's listen to it when
And don't say, I didn't go to jail, I'm okay. Keep our system clean. Keep our system clean. How must our politics be if we're going to do that? First of all, they have to be honest. The politics have to be honest. The people have to be clean and honest also. If you are not honest, if you are not clean, if you have a black mark, whether people know it or not, please stay out of politics. And so we need honest politicians, and we also need voters who can tell the difference between people who are honest and people who are not. And I was very, very surprised yesterday that here on this spot yesterday to hear Dr. Chee Soon Juan say, reputation is temporary, but character is permanent. I agree. I think Dr. Chee has every reason to know that character is permanent, doesn't change. We cannot have corruption in Singapore. We cannot have wrongdoing in the government or in high places in Singapore. That's why we have the CPIB reporting to me as PM, and if I don't give approval to the CPIB to investigate somebody, the CPIB can go to the president and ask the president for approval. President says yes, CPIB can proceed against the PM. That's why we have the Auditor General's office, to keep the government straight, to keep our statutory board straight, and once in a while to find out whether the town councils are straight or not straight. These are the PAP standards, and these also have to be the opposition standards. Just because you don't wear white doesn't mean you shouldn't be white or needn't be white. what is different about Singapore. I can show it to other people. Can they do it? Not so easy. That's what we must always keep precious in Singapore. So maybe that is why when Mr. Lee Kuan Yew had his 90th birthday, we had a little celebration in Parliament. And he was too weak to make a speech, but he came, he joined us in the members' room. We made a birthday cake, we sang a song, blew the candles, and he made a small speech. He talked about only one thing. He said, remember, keep our system clean.
That was powerful.
Thank you. Just one thing. You will notice that governance is really being done by maybe 2, 3, or 4 people. We have far too many people in governance. That is what we need to look at when we are looking at our constitution. You know, far too many as leaders, and they're all just doing whatever they like. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. So I think someone put in the chat room that the video says it all, and based on the comments that have been Mr. Akinleye shared, was the people. How do we educate ourselves and empower ourselves to be engaged in this good governance? Pastor Sonny also kind of really, and I'm going to go back to how he laid the context for the discussion today. He talked about the role of everyone, whether it's the religious leaders, the traditional leaders, we as the citizens. What is our role and how can we begin to hold government accountable? We've had this series of conversation about holding government accountable. They will continue to do what they're doing because we continue to remain silent. So how do we hold them accountable, raise this issue, question EFCC? What do we need to do to bring these issues to the forefront? You worked on the constitution review. We spent the ALJ had constituted a committee that worked hours and hours to send a response to the call for memorandum. We printed. Someone went to the office, dropped it, spent money. Haven't heard anything back from them. And now they are starting another constitution review. How do we keep going into this black hole that takes us nowhere? So I think that's the conversation. And Pastor Sonny, I'm going to turn over to Pastor Sonny. He has answers for some of my questions. Thank you. And we're waiting. We don't have any other hands up. So Pastor Sonny would continue the conversation while you think about your questions or your contribution. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. Really, apart from the area where I said, can we get a forum where we can speak to our leaders unscripted? Because we rarely engage with them unscripted, whether press or the populace. You know, there is no, so I use the example again of you guys in the US, where Obama, when he was president, or Trump, Biden hasn't done so much of that again, appears before the press, you know, every once in a while. But every week, or is it every month, that press secretary to the president comes out and briefs the press about every issue they want to know about. In Nigeria, I don't know how we handle that. So we just get snipers, nobody questions them, they just issue press statements, and that's all. So we must have that kind of engagement, and I think the press should demand it. If you can't get the president, at least the press secretary, either in Ngilale or the Minister of Information, every week there must be a time, just like they do their ESCO meeting. The man should be able to come and brief and then take questions, not just to talk and go away. He must, and it must be televised live. So that's one. Whether they will do that or not is what I don't know. But the other one that is clearly within our purview is we can create a dashboard that can be published, that we can send to the press, which must engage the press in this, of every issue that is outstanding, how many days, something like this. You know, this is the kind of dashboard I'm talking about. You know, so we will look at it. Is it the Better Edu case? When was the date of commencement? Agency responsible, description of the matter, status. How many days do we have? We'll count it in days so that we can get it in years. What are the next steps? Who is the next team? This dashboard, we intend to we'll be talking about this at least on this platform. And we want to get as many newspaper and radio and television houses to join us in this scheme. Because if we only discuss the things that come up and forget what happened yesterday, we will never make progress. So we must, as a deliberate plan, come up with something like this. And look, this thing is not perfected yet. It's still work in progress. Anyone that wants to make contribution to this idea, so it's just a thought in our head. We want to see how we can keep the issues so that people can go back and look at it. Very soon would delineate them into various categories, you know, of cases that are outstanding, investigations that have not yet been closed, promises that government have made to say, you know, government will say, when something happens, we will investigate it and we'll let you know. Police will say, when there's a killing, we'll investigate it and we'll let you know. And that's where it ends. Nobody ever asks them any more question. The whole matter is buried. We shouldn't allow that to happen. So if we have a dashboard like this, whatever happens, we'll just go and post it there. We'll put the responsible person and we'll begin to track. It can be 1,000 cases there, it doesn't matter. But we'll just, and if you're interested in anyone, you can go to the dashboard. We'll try and host this thing on our website and we'll try and get as many of the press people as possible to do this. So this is one thing, Jumoke, and that's answering your question of what can we do? This is one thing that I think is squarely within our own purview. We don't need government approval to do this. But we keep keeping it out there every time. And every Thursday when we come on this forum, at least we will highlight 5 of the outstanding topical issues that are still outstanding for people just to be aware. You know, that's maybe our own commitment on this platform. And like I said, it's still work in progress. People may want to speak to it. You may want to make a contribution to this. You may want to criticize this if you think it's not going to work. If you have an idea to improve it, let's know. You know, it is something that we think we can add to enrich our engagement with government on issues that are outstanding. Thank you, Jumoke. Let's get
Thank you very
comments
much.
and contributions.
And I just wanted to add to your comment a little bit. And this is, you know, last week, was it last week we met with Sheun also on this accountability tool. He also has a dashboard and we started to talk about forming a coalition of civil society organizations that will join forces together to continue to advocate for some of these things. So that's very important. And the second thing I also wanted to mention is we will put this in a Google link that we can send out to people, send out to the participants here to continue to populate. Right now, we publish NLS, the summary of NLS in newspapers every week. And I think that's one of the things that we need to stay on, like we stay on the matter. We are so quick to forgetting and moving on to the next. But if we can keep publishing this weekly, sharing it as much as possible, eventually it will get it will get attention because it's not going to go away. I think there's another, is it SEPA that is always, that takes the government to court. Maybe it's also collaborating, lending our voices to some of those organizations that have taken action so that they are not alone in this quest to hold government accountable. And lastly, we do have at ALG, we have the Citizens Responsibility Campaign, and we've started going to part of our civic what is the corporate social responsibility is Fan, where we go to neighborhoods to distribute food. So what we've been doing when we go on those outreach is to actually educate those that come to receive. We spend the first 30 minutes or so sharing information about their responsibility, giving them information about their local government and who they can contact if they have questions, and just really giving them enough information to be engaged and to know that they have a say in good governance. So that's part of our effort, and we need more hands on deck with that effort as well. Thank you. I don't see any other hands up. I think Mr. President had unmuted. He wanted to say something. Is that okay? Maybe not.
Well, this issue of corruption that we have highlighted today, I think is extremely, extremely critical. And I think there should be a call and a collective effort by every Nigerian to try and fight corruption. Because if we do not get rid of corruption, corruption is going to get rid of our country. There's no doubt about that. And there's no country and no organization that can thrive with the level of corruption that we have. And this issue of corrupt cases that never get solved or get attended to, it's almost as though corruption is highly political and everybody pays lip service to it. You know, somebody played a tape the other day and showed Nuhu Ribadu, who had challenged certain people to court over corruption in EFCC. But today, he's National Security Advisor to a team that involves about 5 of those people that he had previously taken to run after or investigated, and he had previously accused of corruption. And I don't think any of those 5 has actually acquitted themselves of these corruption charges. They just, in fact, quite don't go away. They are like a sort of Damocles over people's lives. And when people don't behave a certain way, they reach out again and bring out that charge and start a fresh charge again, like they tried to do for somebody recently that had been accusing people of corruption. Then they suddenly reopened some case. Babangida, yeah, they did it for Babangida. They suddenly reopened some Dele Giwa case. And they now said they were going to start to reopen Dele Giwa's case, blah, 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 because he had made a particular statement. And of course, there was no other comment from him, and everything went down again. So both the judiciary, the EFCC, the ICPC, the press, and all manners of things are being used as political tools to further political interests. And we're really playing with fire, and there are no standards, and we're playing lip service to a lot of the things that are going on. In fact, when you are involved in politics, there's so many things that you're also fighting against. Just not campaigning for the office you're running after, but you're also preparing for voting day to ensure that your agents are not corrupt or corrupted. You're also preparing for the security forces. It's standard practice that if you don't give the security forces, all of them, some amount or the other, they might look away when things are going against your party. But at least if you give them something, you have a basis on which to get them to try and respond to your issues. So there's a list of security forces that you must at least go and mobilize or see. then you prepare for the judiciary. You know, one of our political aspirants in the last couple of elections didn't really do too much in terms of campaign or even in terms of agents, but prepared a war chest for judiciary, thinking that through the judiciary, he or she could get justice. These are all the things that are going on in Nigeria right now, and it's a lot of pain. You know, all those charges that Sonny mentioned earlier on, none of them has been finalized. The fellows have either not been discharged or acquitted, or maybe have been partially discharged in some cases. And a lot of the other cases are just pending, and life is just going on as normal. And people are also, because the cases were not completed, are also able to offer themselves for different offices. So it makes a total nonsense of the whole thing, in that if everything is okay, you're in power, you're doing all right, you're in the right political party, there's no problem. But the minute you start to go one way or the other, all sorts of charges are trumped up against you to keep you quiet, to muscle you, to challenge you, and so on and so forth. And it's even also a show of shame that almost no political office holder has been totally free of corruption. You know, even though I must admit that some of those charges are trumped up and they are vendetta charges, they are brought out. But at the same time, most of them also have a skeleton or so in their cupboard that can also always be pulled up against them. So it's just making the whole thing so painful, like a Game of Thrones, like a comedy, and like a nonsense. And the saddest is that the public, the innocent public, are just being pushed left and right. They are left at bay. They are pawns in the hands of political leaders, and so on and so forth. Okay, there's a political leader in Edo State, for instance, now, who's accused everybody of all sorts of things. One day was criticizing Ize the next day is criticizing Obaseki, the day after is criticizing this one and the other, abusing them, Shuaibu. Then the next day they are best of friends, they are frustrating, they are now saying that, oh, they made a mistake, one or the other. So one day one man is bad, the next day the man is not so bad or is a good person. And yet we still keep taking some of these leaders seriously, and the innocent public think that they're people to be reckoned with. But other than that, what is really most painful is the cost of corruption, the cost of corruption, the cost of corruption. I don't think that in Nigeria we can fully fathom what corruption has cost us. And that's why the Prime Minister of Singapore was shouting and screaming that we must keep our records clean. We must keep our politics clean. We must behave well. Because corruption is very, 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 very expensive in terms of financial cost, in terms of material cost. You know, 3/4 of the people who have jackpot out of Nigeria, jackpot really because they reacted to corruption. Some said Nigeria is not safe. Nigeria is not safe because there's corruption. Some said there are no jobs. There are no jobs because there's corruption. Some says that there's no. I mean, I got a text message just today from somebody who is a friend of mine, and he said to me that there's a certain university in South Nigeria. He wants his son to get admission. He wants me to lend him 200,000 naira because that is the cost of he's been told to pay to somebody so that his son can get admission into university. I mean, who does that? Can you imagine that? that whether the boy is qualified or not, whether he has truly passed or not, and so on and so forth, just give us 200,000 and we guarantee the boy a place. Now, a boy who's paid 200,000 to get admission, what do you think his worldview and his attitude to life is going to be, even during his course in university? I mean, it's just unthinkable that this sort of thing happens. Just yesterday in Houston, one of the fellows that came to pick me up from the airport was a young boy who was a musician in Trinity House. Now, when this boy was with us in Trinity House, he could barely put two fingers together. For him to go abroad, we had to do like a milk round, raise money for him. He finally escaped to some college or the other, living in a little apartment, face me, I face you, didn't have a car, nothing. This boy came to pick me up yesterday in an S-Class 560 Mercedes. The same boy with the same skills and the same person. The corruption in Nigeria didn't give him a chance to make a living with his skills. He comes to the United States, and within 4 years or 5 years, he's bought his own house, married his wife, drives an S-Class Mercedes, has a business, started from nothing, that is thriving. That same business he tried to start in Nigeria, Nigeria didn't give him a chance. How will the boy not escape? I mean, how will the boy not come and look for greener pastures somewhere else? Because these are the costs of this deep-seated corruption that we have. I mean, I couldn't believe my face yesterday when I saw this young man looking happy, looking content, seeing the fruits of his labor, which you would not see in a place like Nigeria because of the cost of corruption. Now, this fellow, with his own skill and knowledge, is benefiting the American economy, creating jobs, creating this. The second fellow who came to meet me was also a fellow who was struggling in Nigeria. But here now, even though he's been here for almost 20 years, he has his own business, owns a fleet of trucks that keeps moving goods up and down, working for the military and so on. And he doesn't know them. It's just that it's a competent company. In Nigeria, who can work for military if you don't know chief of army staff or a high up general? But he's working for the military, moving goods up and down. They did an advert, he tendered, he got the job. And he's doing his job and making his money without knowing anybody. You know, right there on the phone in the car yesterday, was making phone calls, organizing things. This is the cost of corruption. So you are looking at the human cost, the amount of brains, the amount of intellectual capacity, the amount of intelligence, the amount of people that has been driven away out of Nigeria, who should be contributing to the Nigerian economy, that are no longer there. Some are living into continents at the same time. The children are here in the United States, or they're there in Canada, or they're there in England. The husband is shuttling up and down, going up and down every day, every month. One of my friends told me his family lives in America. He lives in Nigeria because he's a part-time politician, and every month he's on the plane going up and down. That's a massive cost of corruption. What about people who've had to come to look for education here, paying enormous fees to keep American and British and German and Spanish and even Ghanaian colleges and universities alive? Meanwhile, our own tertiary institutions are barely functioning in Nigeria. That's part of the cost of corruption. And some of these corrupt people, the monies are in different economies, financing different economies, or the monies are in sewers and soakaways and in cupboards in Nigeria. And even the family or the wife or the children do not know about this. And then what about the misallocation of resources, the misallocation of resources based on corruption. So instead of money going to the right path, but money should go to other things. A lot of these, our politicians have what they call constituency projects. Those constituency projects are just show and tells. The economic benefit of those projects are not measured. And a lot of them are just give something to the boys, let them create avenues and pipelines for corruption. And then the high costs of delivering government projects. My brother also was saying yesterday that most of the designs for most of the roads in Nigeria are good designs, but by the time you introduce corruption into it, the person awarding the contract wants to take the entire cost of an 8-lane road. The person who is being given the contract is being told to do the money for a fraction of what he has quoted. So the large chunk goes to corruption. So the guy looks at himself, instead of doing an 8-lane road, he does a 2-lane road. He removes the drainage, removes the street lightings, removes everything. It gives you a carcass of a road, and then also makes his own money. So a job that government is paying 1 billion for, you can be sure that 500 to 700 million is done away with corruption. The contractor gets 300 or 400 million. He makes his own profit of 100 to 200 million. And then at the end of the day, you get 100 million nairas worth of work for 1 billion nairas worth of contracts. This is the cost of corruption all over the place. What are the people who die because instead of money going into hospitals, it has gone into somebody else's pockets? People die from road accidents because roads are poorly or badly built. People cannot access farms or their homes because the monies for their roads has been taken away by some corrupt officials. I think we need to interrogate this. And what we probably need to be thinking of doing, even at ALG, is how we now begin a serious battle and a serious engagement against corruption, a strategic way of looking at it, naming and telling, show and tell, and so on and so forth, and then seeing if we can contribute our own quota to emancipating Nigeria, at least from this hydra-headed monster. Those are my 2 cents for now, and I yield the floor to more capable and hopefully corruption-free Nigerians who are on this platform. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Mr. President, I want to follow up with you on you mentioned innocent public a couple of times, and how innocent are we as Nigerian citizens in this corruption quest? We talk about, and you talk about healthcare and those that lose their lives. I lost a friend because of corruption in healthcare, and it wasn't government officials that refused to give him oxygen because he had an asthma attack. You talked about the roads that, the contractor that is giving this contract, he now has to remove the specs or water down the specs and then build these substandard roads because he has to pay. He pays as a citizen. So how innocent are we as Nigerian citizens in this corruption? Are we enabling? Are we perpetuating? Because if we have a role, and I don't know that we've really accepted our role and responsibility in this corruption.
Can I get on your wife's side? Well, the truth of the matter is that there are about 3 or 4 classes of citizens in Nigeria. And if you come to the rural areas, you'll find a lot of unsuspecting and largely innocent citizens, just going about their daily lives, just struggling, trying to etch out a living, and they don't just know what is going on up there. And they cannot connect their inability to access their farms, their inability to have good roads, their inability to have clean running water, their inability to have decent medical experiences, to the governor's convoy. And then they still come out when the governor is coming to welcome him, to sing him praises, to give him baskets of yam, and to do all sorts of things. They are totally helpless. They're totally innocent people. They just think that this is how life is, and life may not be able to get better. So there's that category. There's another category of citizens who now are forced and compelled to succumb or to engage in their own kind of corruption because they don't think they have a choice. One of them is this gentleman, is actually my barber, who thinks that he has to look for 200,000 to get his child into school. He's now beginning to think that this is normal. This is the normal way of life. And there are quite a few people like that. You have to pay extra to get JAMB form. You have to pay extra to get your passport. You have to pay the policeman on the road once he stops you. They just say this is normal life, okay? They don't even know whether it's corrupt or not corrupt. For them, it is survival, and they have to survive. Even some of the contractors, if I don't go and give them their 700 million and take my own 100 million, I won't survive. So they are compelled to do this. And then there are those who think that corruption is a culture and they must engage it as a culture and keep it going as a culture. So you have all these categories of people operating in Nigeria. But you find that those who are really, 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 really corrupt, they're not more than 5 or 10% of the population, but they're the serious leading 5 or 10%, and they drive the culture down to the others who are now compelled as an act of survival to do this thing. A lot of people have come abroad and they've come under corrupt means. You know, even some have approached me, give me 1 million, give me 2 million, let me put it in my account. Let me go to British or American embassy. They want proof of funds. There are people who even do it as a business. They will lend you money at X amount of money, X amount of interest rate to go to the embassy so that you can get out. You know, so a lot of people have been compelled and forced into corruption to survive. So the whole thing is just going round and round in very, very horrible circles. There are people who make money now through visa, what they call consulting. A lot of it is corrupt money in most of the embassies. None of them is totally free, you know, because people just simply have to survive. They just simply have to survive. So it's becoming a nasty, nasty cankerworm. And before we know it, we will not be able to recognize ourselves. And any nation or any group or any organization that has this sort of culture will simply not survive over the long run.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And I think this is one of the things you always mention about the reorientation, like going back to unlearn everything that we've learned as normal. And even like you said, when we go anywhere we go, we take that culture of corruption with us. Unfortunately, and I use the word unfortunately, we take that culture of corruption with us and continue to act in those spaces as though it's the normal thing, it's the way of life. All right, thank you. Any other comments? I don't see any other hands up. Uncle Oga.
Well, yeah, I think for me, I totally agree with what Pastor said, but what he didn't say is, how do we get out of it? You know, so these are helpless people. They think it's a way of life. They don't know any better. Even those that know any better, we don't have anywhere to go and complain to. Because in Nigeria, if they jack you up to pay one bribe or do something, you begin to weigh your options. Do I stand my grounds and say, I'm not doing? Do I have the time? Can I go through the process? So even those that know, they weigh their option, you know, because sometimes a policeman stops you on the road and he's asking you for maybe 1,000 naira. And you're like, for what? I can't give you. Oga, if you love yourself, you better give him, because by the time you get to the DPO in the office, That 1,000 naira will become 10,000. And you have seen this happen over and over again, you know. So you will now be blaming yourself. So the next time they stop you, when they say X, because if you think that when you go to the office, you can get justice, but there's no justice anywhere. If you think you want to go above the DPO to the commissioner, you can't get justice. I mean, my brother had a case, and that case has been going on for close to 8 years now. About 3 IGs have gone through this case, delegated the case to AIGs to handle. The case is as simple as ABC once you look at the file. But because of interest and corruption, nobody will speak the truth and say, this is the matter, this is where it ends. So the issue is, how do we bail the cat? What happens? The people can't help themselves because we simply can't. We need somebody from the top that can drive it down, like Lee Kuan Yew, like the video that we watched. I mean, you just saw a clear leadership that was ready to drive the process of people doing the right thing from the top. And that's how, when you get involved in this thing, everybody becomes part of it in one way or the other. When the man carrying his goods from the farm is blocked by the police and they collect a bribe, by the time he gets to the market, he also does something. I mean, there was a classical video that I saw, and I will end with this one, about the teacher in the school that got a photographer to come and, you know, photograph the children. I'm sure many of us have seen it. And the photographer said, how much is it? He said it was 50 naira. And the principal called the teacher and said, well, a photographer is coming to snap the children. Tell the children that it is 70 naira. That one went and told the children it is 100 naira. The child went and told his mother it is 120. The mother told the father it is 150. And the father shouted, this government, they won't kill us. Sample photography, look at how much they are taking. You know, so this is the way the process goes. And we keep having a repeat of this same circle. That's why leadership is very, very key and essential. If we get the right leadership that is ready to do the right thing, the people will conform. If you have a laid down process and procedure that everybody knows, this is the way. Police people will keep saying, report to us, as if they are blind. They have relatives, they have cousins, they have brothers that pass the road all the time. How many times have IG banned, what is it called? Roadblocks. But we keep having those roadblocks all the time. So the issue is how, and I ask that question, how will the people liberate themselves from this issue once again?
So we have just one hand up, and we have I think, okay, we have the two. I think Mrs. Adetula and Mr. Akinleye, they've both spoken before, but I'm going to take them again because those are the only two hands up. What you just described, Pastor Sonny, the principal is a Nigerian, the teacher is a Nigerian, the mother is a Nigerian, the father, you know, it goes on. So what you just described is across the segment, we are all responsible for this. That's what I'm hearing. The IG, if it's 5 IGs, the policemen, they are all Nigerians. It's not, we don't have aliens coming into the nation and what do they call this, taking over people's body, like Pastor explained, the innocent ones in the villages, those that are not, or in the rural areas that are not really engaged. But those that know better, we are the ones that are really perpetuating and enabling this. And I don't think we should absolve ourselves of those. That's just my own comment. Go ahead, Ms. Adetula.
Thank you. I just want to react to what Pastor Enebi said. The problem is the followership. That is our main problem. I think I have said it here before or another forum. When my late husband became a federal PAMSEC, friends and relations were putting pressure on him. This is your first, your opportunity. Oh, He doesn't come twice. So you have to, some even volunteer, use us. When he now retired and they didn't see him to be living like the others, they took it upon themselves to go and meet him in his house. Didn't we tell you? You see now how wretched you are. I am just giving you that example. How do we stop people putting unnecessary pressure on political leaders when they are appointed? Look, I think we are about, let me see, how many of us are here now? 36, 35 or whatever, 37. I can say it with all authority, categorically, that 50% of people here, if you are given the opportunity in Abuja, they will do the same thing, because your people will come and meet you, and then you will not be looking stupid. So that is, how do we stop the followership from putting unnecessary pressure on these people? This is one of the basic problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have Mr. Akinleye. Please go ahead with your comments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, everyone. First of all, I want to say that when Pastor Itua was speaking, I almost cried, because similar type of JAPA kind of thing was what happened to so many people by the time I was living in Nigeria almost 34 years ago. And since that time, I have helped so many young people coming from Nigeria who have turned around their lives. If you see how they are living right now, it's amazing. And when they compare the way they live now compared to what they have continued to experience in Nigeria, you can see that it appears that they make a good decision, because they now have a better life for themselves and their family. Nevertheless, as I said before, I think grassroots is the key. As at now, I don't see any leader who can drive everything from the top down. If we start making some clips of video like the one already displayed and start marketing it little by little, people's mindset will be changing. Gradually, we will get a leader one day who will want to use that kind of message and say, I'm going to run or ride on this kind of message. And then everybody will elect. Look at the SAR, those small people who drive it in Lagos. Look at how, even though we lost some lives, but at the end of the day, it gave us some changes. So that's what I think can happen. If we start making some video clips, it won't cost us a lot of money. If we contribute together and we start marketing it in social media, little by little, the mindset of our people will be changing for good governance. I yield.
Thank you. That's one recommendation. That Citizens Responsibility campaign, for us to go to the grassroots and continue to educate, and
Yes.
also to hold government accountable with the dashboard that Pastor Sonny had mentioned we're working on. It was projected, and also collaboration with other civil society organizations to put all these things at the front burner, and we can't turn away. We have to be engaged. We have
Yes.
to contribute to it. Thank you so much. Professor Grange, go ahead, ma. Go ahead and unmute, ma.
Right. Thank you. Yes. I think Mrs. Adetula, no, sorry, Mr. Adetula put his finger on it, that we need to re-educate the people. However, let us remember that our people, traditionally, they are hero worshippers. They are hero worshippers. So we need to identify who are those that will be their heroes from above. So it's a double, it's from top and from the bottom as well, both ways. And I'm beginning to find that one or two governors are showing signs of doing the right thing. For example, the governor of Abia State, he's beginning to do something in order to attract people to his state. We need to identify leaders like that and try and encourage them to go further by infusing honesty into the process. The problem has been that, yes, these governors will do well, they want to help the people and all that, but they do not care about the values, the character of the people. If we can try and get them to know that for sustainability, they need to infuse honesty into the character of their people, it will help. I think, I leave it at that, but let me leave it at that. But we need to find some tools that will help us. And Pastor Sonny has already brought out a tool which we need to test. Let people know that it is their responsibility to identify what is going wrong and ask
And
questions.
follow up. And
Yes, follow up.
on it too.
Ask
Follow
questions, follow up on it.
Yeah.
Okay. And try to recognize those who will be honest, those who are honest, and try to appreciate that it is best to have honest people at the helm of affairs. Thank you.
I want to follow up with Pastor Sonny on a couple of comments he made in terms of responsibility, the role of traditional leaders. This is just a segue from your conversation too, about identifying those role models and leaders that people can emulate. Because we're and I would use the word psychophancy. That's our culture, right? We hero worship. So what about the role of the traditional and religious leaders in setting the tone for accountability, integrity, and also responsible and ethical leadership? That role, and I will use this comment, and not because is our principle. There was a comment on one of our platforms, and someone sent me a private message saying that this is not what Pastor Itwa stands for, because the comment was kind of more derogatory and not so pleasant, and sent me a private comment that, how do we stop people from posting this kind of things on our platform, because it doesn't represent who the leader of the organization is. And so we took steps. So these are some of the things, and this is where we as individuals within our own sphere of influence, we also have to take that responsibility and project what it is that we want others to follow. Thank you, Ma. Pastor Sonny, I don't know if you want to respond to that. We have a couple of hands up, or should I take those before?
Yeah, take those before.
Okay. I have Akonimo. I'm sorry if I pronounce Akanimo. I was pronouncing it like a Yoruba girl, but go ahead.
Yes, it's
Please go ahead.
It's totally fine. Good evening, Ma. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's a very interesting topic, corruption, and just want to quickly share my experience to draw a line from what Pastor Sonny said about the primary school picture. So sometime last year, I was in Nigeria. I came back to Nigeria and see my family, and I had to renew my passport. And normally, the process would have taken a couple of months. So someone linked me up with the Ikoyi passport office. So I went there, got the number, normal, sorted the person, gave them kickback. And then I started experiencing delays, Like what Pastor Sonny said, I now had to get another person and pay that person money to now monitor the original person that I gave money to renew my passport. So I think I'm probably the youngest person, maybe I'm the youngest person in the room, but this is my perception, yeah. Or up there are certain institutions that will never change, and the Ikoyi Passport Office is one of such institutions. When I was there, a man came, he stripped himself half naked, took his shirt off, and he was crying, he was weeping, a very senior man. They've been trying to get his passport, and they've been posting him up and down, up and down, up and down. Eventually, I managed to get my passport, but it started with corruption, and then it ended in corruption. So it's going to be very difficult, because even to very basic things. When I also took time out to do my NIN, and I still had to sort money. I still had to pay. They said, if I want to get it done quickly, they'll put me on a list in Abuja and something. I said, okay, no problem. How much is it? So it's how will I put it? It will take Nigeria ages to get this right, but there's still a bit of hope. But it's probably going to take a very, very long time, and I think probably people in my generation would probably say that there's almost no hope. So that's my comment. I think
There's
it's going to be
always
very
hope.
difficult.
You're here talking about it, so that's hope. That we are involved, we're interested in really coming up with resolutions and what we can do, so there is hope. I want you to believe that there is hope. Okay, thank you for your comments. Mr. Adeleye, welcome, good to see you here. Otumba Said.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Okay, yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is an interesting one, and my perspective to it is this. There is no perfect institution anywhere in the world. Corruption is everywhere in the world, even the celebrated countries. But what makes the difference, in my opinion, is the boldness in which folks actually exhibit corruption and how it's embraced. And that's what we deal with as a country. And I think, it starts with very bold conversations like this amongst like-minded individuals. As someone rightly said earlier, even if a few of us on this call are not corrupt, but just getting to listen to others to see that there's a significant number of those who really embracing truth, transparency, honor, and are being celebrated, that's a step in the right direction. So for me, it starts with us being intentional to celebrate those who are honorable, upholding truth. Long as it being that we've seen the trajectory back at home change from celebrating people who are really doing great, and we're rather celebrating those who are not. And in the face of the majority who are still trying to put food on the table for their families, figure out how to, see the next day, it's not because they want to compromise, but they just left at the mercy of the reality of the environment that they find themselves in. So I think, as someone said earlier, one of the immediate solutions, in my opinion, is equally for us to start celebrating across the chain of leadership, across the chain of human existence, those who are actually doing honorable things, even at their local community level. The security agent or the security organization or the security community leader who's actually putting his community at the forefront of safety and giving his life for the community, even at the disrespect of the public security agencies. We know back at home we do a lot of. Some of them are actually honorable. So the very simple things that we take for granted, or the people have come to take for granted, I think, in my opinion, would be one starting point. And yes, as Mr. Doe rightly said, those are low-hanging expenses that we can actually put forth that can actually help to correct things. Reference also was made to certain state governments who are beginning to uphold transparency and what have you. Yes, it's a step in the right direction for us to also intentionally reach out to them, bring them forward to speak not just to the community of civic organizations at the leadership level, because again, we're not encouraging those who are doing it, whereby their colleagues can see that we're equally giving them limelight, put them in that position where they just think it's a strange thing to do, right? And lastly, I would also say, Madam Jumoke said, it's that also with each and every one of us on this call. If you are one who's honorable, you just have to continue to press on and actually push. I'll give you a quick scenario. There was one of the Nigerian financial institutions who had an event, here in the US towards the end of last year. It's been almost 6 years. I saw, one of my peers who right now is one of the senior managers in the financial institution. And the first thing he said, when we ran into each other with a few other colleagues, is, oh, Sahid, Nigeria is not fit for you. You're in the right country now because, you couldn't be corrupt back home. And that sat with me for a couple of minutes that, well, this is someone I've not seen in a couple of years, but he definitely knows my principle, what I stand for. So my point basically is this: it's not about, the now, it's more where we're going to. Never relent in the uniqueness of your character, never relent in your uniqueness of your positions, and eventually, we would all collectively align together to make that, success story of a prideful, transparent, honorable Nigeria loudest to resolve. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you for your contribution. May I have Madam Thomas, please? Go ahead, Ma. I asked you to unmute. Madam Thomas?
Sorry. Yes.
Ma.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. Well, thank you, everybody on this platform, because I can see that we all have the same mind, how to put Nigeria straight. But then I think we are working on something that is really bigger than every one of us. Because every Thursday we come here, we say good things, we advise each other and look at the way forward. But then this is Nigeria we're talking about. It seems like, just like Pastor Sani said earlier on, we have incorporated corruption .
We're losing your audio, Ma, or is it me?
In here. Okay. Easy thing, if you ask me. Easy. Because when we dwell on the words like accountability, transparency, those two words are very key in any system. But in this country, we keep on overlooking it. There are so many cases that were suspended. Even when we have been told, we have evidence, we have everything to prove it, but we just say, it is our son of the soil. No, I mean, Omowani, I just said, I'm sorry. That is what we keep on living on. We are not truthful. Let us be focused, just like we witnessed in the video. Keep our system clean. If you can use that as our slogan and keep on moving at every level, not just at the leadership level. There was the time I posted something about even the citizens, people defecating everywhere, messing up whatever the government has put in the little they have been able to put in. Somebody will come and say they're going to use the bridge railings as, for utensils and things like that. Look at all the bridges, no railings. Look at the roads. Even where they're doing it, somebody is removing something from it. And the people at the top, they know where to go. At every level in the system, accountability. When you're given a responsibility, let's have a follow-up. Have you done it? Let's see it. Sean was here the other time, giving us some tools to use. I think we should introduce those tools to every system, through our system. Let them look at it. Let these leaders look through. We want transparency and accountability. And once you are found guilty, we must be seen judiciary to be doing what is right. Law enforcers, they are really frustrated because when they arrest somebody, the big oga is just by the corner, one phone call, oh, please release that person. What are we talking about? Let me just give you an example. my late husband owned a farm. So when he died, we continued on, to do something on the farm. At the harvesting stage, cassava, at the harvesting stage, this herdsman came, just hectares, they mowed all their, cattle just mowed down the whole thing. We could not harvest one cassava. Many hectares, just like that. They ate it all up. Now, where do we go? Who do we report to? And we are saying we are hungry. Why can't we be hungry? We have machine for making gari or whatever. Forget it. We couldn't even do one bag, one thing. And what we were told was that these herdsmen, they know some people in the village that they bribe them with their cattle. So they give them cattle whenever they want to complain. They'll give them cattle. So the herdsmen will even help them, with their own cattle. So where do we go? That is the kind of system we are talking about. People, we must have some things in place. I'm sorry. Let us just be focused. Accountability, transparency, respect, and, we must be responsible citizens. So once we can get all that in place, I think this country will move forward. And sorry, you said something about religious leaders. I'm sorry, my brother, my pastor, if you are listening, religious leaders, you have responsibilities too. You have hordes of followers at every gathering in the church. Please help preach this thing of accountability, transparency, respectability as common citizens. And I believe if we can practice that at our various religious outfits, whether mosque or whatever, then I believe the country will be okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. Dr. Aluya, please go ahead.
Well, hello, good afternoon, greetings from New Jersey. It's great to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity once again. And I must say, unfortunately, maybe because we don't have a guest speaker, we don't have as much people as expected that will be here when we need to discuss, pertinent issues like this when it comes to Nigeria. And I think the last speaker had just said something, that every week we come here talking about issues that concerns us. And I will always say, you find time for the things that are important to you. And that's why we keep coming every week to do this. And I'm listening to a couple of, everybody that spoke earlier on. But I'll say this, that we, at this point of our time, have a great opportunity to make a difference now. And I'll begin by saying this, just like they say in politics, every politics is local, and every successful politics is even more local, I always say. So also growth and development, it's local. We must begin at the local level as well. Now, we have the opportunity where we have local government autonomy. And what that means is that the local government will now have some form of autonomy, and the autonomy comes with money. If you have money, you have power. So it therefore means the local government chairs and the entire council will now have the ability to have that money that truly will trickle down to implement policies and procedures and projects that would directly affect the people. And not just that, this is in tandem with the local chiefs as well. Because look, at the end of it all, our local chiefs or paramount leaders or whoever they are work with the local government chair, and they're the ones who are mostly directly in contact with the community. So this is a one-in-a-lifetime chance. I've said this multiple times, a couple of places, and I often give examples of what I did a couple of years ago. I'm from Delta State, Isoko to be precise, where my dad is from, though my mom is Benin. And I was born in Benin, but you head back to where your father is. So I did. And when I saw two younger men who were contesting, and I reviewed both of them, I saw what their minds were and their hearts are. Listen, I helped with them with their campaign, and they got elected. and they were local government chair in the local government headquarters. So what did I do? I went back to them and I said, look, I want you to come with me and we'll do a tour of the local government hospitals and the local government, center, primary care, schools. And they came with me. And they were shocked to really see what truly things were on the ground. Shocking? To me, yes. That the fact that they are the local government chairs, but they haven't done an assessment or walkthrough of the same centers in their headquarters that they govern. And they were asking, oh, typical stories that you see with the roofs being leaking and no roofs and the kids are on the floor, no chairs. And then he was asking our teacher, our headmistress, why didn't you tell me this? And she was perplexed. We did the same thing with the local government health center. Now, why am I saying this? I was able to do that, one, because I got involved in the process. So we can speak and talk from now till tomorrow. If you don't get involved in the process, nothing will happen. Nothing. And I always say this. You can only change power when you get close to power. Period. You can't change power from afar. And we often enough, how many of us here know who our local government chair is back home? Really? How many? And if you don't know, then it's time to start knowing who those people are so that you can do this. And when you get involved, you can hold them accountable. Why? Because I'm able to do that because I got involved in the process and I helped them get into office. And because of that, they had no choice. They came to with me to do the tour. And not just, I wasn't asking them for money. I'm only asking them what I can do to help you do your job better. But just like somebody had said, when we have people who come into office and you have the whole community, they're like, oh, you're not going to drop money. This is your time to chop for us and all that and all that. It happens all the time. Because after one of the events that we had, and I gave a speech and all that, he said, oh, Doc, could you please come with me? Let's go to my house for a visit. I said, okay, fine, I'll come. So we went there. By the time we got to his house, there were already people sitting outside. What were they doing? They were drinking and eating chicken and all that. And you know what the local government chairman said? He said, Doc, look at these people. They are here now. They are eating and drinking. By the time they leave here, they expect me to give them money when they leave. If I don't do that, then I'm a bad man. And that's what he said. I looked at him with such much, I felt for him. I felt bad because he wants to work, but the people around him don't get it. All they care about, put money in their pocket. So unless we begin to get close to these individuals, help support them, and ask them what they want and how they want it done, we'll never do something else. And I'll tell you the next thing I've done recently. Again, I have 2 local government shared centers. So what did I do? I heard that the local government, the youth in the local government, they have youth leaders. If you look, each and every one of our local government have youth leaders. And each side, they fight all the time. So I got somebody who I can trust. I said, look, reach out to all of these youth leaders. Let's have a meeting. Let's have a meeting so that let me ask them what their issues are. What is their problem? Why are they fighting and all that? And they did. We had a meeting. The first meeting was late in September. 17 of them gathered, the president and the vice. They were shocked. And they said, Doc, nobody has ever asked us to come for a meeting like this. That the only time they get us together is when a few of us, they want to share money to a few of us. And at the end, when they share money, all that result is fight. So I said, okay, fine. Now we know what we are. What is it that we're going to do? I got each one. I said, look, you're not leaving your individual association because everybody wants to be a champion where they are. The Isoko Youth Leadership, the Isoko Global, whatever, it's fine. I said, what we want is to form a coalition of youth leaders where each and every one of you tell me what space that you are and you're most effective at. If it's health, fine. So I gave a list, I created subcommittees. We had a meeting the other day again, and guess what? The health department, those in the health department, the committee, they did a tour again of 6 health centers. They showed me pictures. Jumoke, I can share with you later. And this is what they do. And we have other people who are also pushing on to the Legislative Engagement Committee, who's going to engage the legislative officers in the local government. One, money is coming. Local government will have a lot of things to do, but we must begin to hold them accountable so that that growth and development that we so desire, and the youth, like somebody said, who eventually understand the message and know the value, will grow up to a point where you say, you know what, I want to take charge and I want to run these things, I run it well. So those are practical things I've done. And I hope people would employ them as well. And I'm sure in your local government, in your space, you can find something that's practical, impactful, and reproducible to do. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. We engage you, Dr. Aluya, on that script. And I know Pastor Sonny is also working on the local government engagement or community development initiative at ALJ. So that's a template that's very practical that we are going to also be rolling out along with our dashboard as we continue to engage as individuals on this quest for a better, safer Nigeria. We are Nigerians. We are responsible for our country. And I pray that we all take on this responsibility very seriously and contribute our quota to it. I'm going to hand over to Pastor Sonny, but before I do that, I just want to stress the importance of we holding ourselves accountable. We as Nigerians, and there are 2 stories that stayed with me that I personally witnessed. Years ago, while I was home, I went with my sister to see her friend who was one inspector general. And while we were in his office, a family came in to plead for the release of their son who had killed in cold blood his neighbor. They had gotten into an argument and he killed that person. He killed his neighbor, and the family came in with money. They wanted him released, and the police officer now asked, so what happens to the family of the person that you killed? He has a wife and he has children. And they said, oh, they have gone to beg for their forgiveness. And so there should be no, basically, well, almost like the guy is dead. And at that point, I had to leave the room because I didn't really want to say anything or even attack the family for thinking someone else's life is gone. It's okay. Now this person doesn't need to be accountable. These are Nigerians. These are Nigerians. These are our neighbors. These are our brothers. These are our sisters that are doing this kind of thing. So I think we all have that responsibility to stand our ground. And maybe that's something we don't talk about enough. Stand our ground against these things that are not right. As Nigerians, we are the ones that can make the change. So that's my plea to everyone. That's my plea. That's my continued plea, that we stand our ground and do what's right. Like Madam Mrs. Thomas said, like, we can make the change. Transparency, accountability, and the consequences, and be ready to pay the price for our action. Thank you. Go ahead, Dave, before I hand over to Pastor Sonny. Go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. I greet everyone specially. I salute you, my beautiful sister. But you're too close to me to have my name all corrupted, if you will. It's Dove, like the soap, like the Dove soap, like the bird. Okay.
I pronounce
All
it
right.
like a Benin girl, so forgive me.
Okay. No wahala. No wahala. We'll make that a family issue next time we meet. Anyway, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone. And also specifically to respond to the young man that talked about hope. And of course, you responded by saying there's hope. To the extent that we are here, of course, hope is the fount of life. To the extent that we can have this number of people to come together to talk about Nigeria, I think that speaks strongly to the existence of hope. And we will get there. We will. We will. Now, I just wanted to share my experience, as I contribute to the conversation. First off, I want to talk about my growing up, my experience as a kid, and the value of shame. When I was a kid growing up, the value of shame was held very highly and very strongly. There were things you just couldn't think about. You couldn't fathom. You couldn't even think about why, how, what are you going to come back to your parents to say? How do you justify your actions? Now, you see, that was for me and for a number of us growing up. By the way, I grew up in a village. I call myself a village boy. So some of you, Jumoke, and the rest of you, township babes and girls, and, so I think we have different experience growing up. Of course, Pastor Sonny, who grew up in Kaduna, I know that. But anyway, now, the value of shame was a moral compass for us. It was a social cohesion, self-reflection and growth, empathy and understanding, and of course, the word that has been used here many times today, accountability. But today, the value of shame, I think, is gone. If it's still available, is very minuscule in absolute terms when compared to what it used to be. Now, I don't know if any of you can relate, but that was my experience. Now, in government, we talk about corruption. Yes, there's corruption everywhere. Even in the United States, there's corruption, no doubt. But they have strong institutions to check those. And of course, there's nobody coming to beg on your behalf, if you are found wanting or if you get caught. Just like Jomo Kenyatta said, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, he said, I am not advocating stealing. I do not ask you to go steal, or in fact, I don't want you to. But if you must do it, you must do it in a way that you don't get caught. And of course, if you get caught, I didn't send you. So you have to face the music, as we say. Now, in my experience in government, I'm not going to name state, I'm not going to name the board that happened to have served on the board in Nigeria. One of the, people talk about, people talk about accountability, but what you don't know is you may be working with people you think you trust, but you also may be setting yourself up big time. Okay, here I was on this board. Now, I saw a few things that were wrong in the way the chairman was leading the team. Many times I went to the chairman with the rest of my team members, the board members. We will have a meeting, say we're going to speak to the chairman and we're going to admonish him. We're going to make sure, he did the right thing. I took it upon myself to lead most of those times. And I will speak very strongly against the actions of the chairman. And of course, I will think I was enjoying the support of my team. So when we would leave the office, they would tell me, Dove, that was, man, you have courage, man. You did this and that. So I thought I was doing the right thing until much later, I found out that after that meeting, my team member will go back to the chairman to identify the chairman that I was alone. And of course, chairman will give them money. I didn't know all this until much later, in fact, after the tenure of our service. Now, there was one particular time, was one of the members was picked as the acting board chairman. We were going to...
Is it his audio or is it me? Did we lose
audio.
That
is audio.
Is his audio?
Yeah, it should rush to
the board to probably give their best performance. You hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah,
we
okay.
couldn't,
okay.
How
we
about now?
couldn't hear you. If you could
But
round up,
conclude.
Can you hear me now?
yeah, if you can conclude,
Okay,
yes, we can
okay.
hear you now.
No, you don't listen. We are trying to solve a problem. I'm sharing my experience. So if you want me to rush through it, you won't get the benefit of the
Please
experience.
go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Now, I'm not giving a concept. This is a personal experience just to speak to the problems of Nigeria. Okay. Now, we were trying to self-evaluate after they let the chairman go so that we will be recognized by the governor so that the governor will retain us. Now, what happened was that a committee was set up, and I was the chair of that committee. And we called the director of works and the DFA to come and account for some of the actions they took and some of the events, some of the things that we saw that were completely in error. So when they came, as we were digging to find out, they now reached back to the chairman that was no longer there on the board to tell him that, look, we are looking into this matter. So they were asking the chairman how they could respond, how they would respond to the question being asked by the committee. The chairman has sent them to the acting chairman that if he was behind the setup of the committee to investigate this matter, that he should remember that money that was sent to pay for a land that he could not pay for before he came to the board, that money came from this particular issue. So if he was going to go on with the investigation, he should also prepare to submit himself to the investigation. Needless to say, that particular committee died. When I found that, I didn't want to ridicule myself because I knew at that time that it was going to be exercised in futility. Because the next day, the chairman, after this message was sent to the acting chairman by the former chairman, the two directors, the DFA and the directors, now went to have a meeting with the acting chairman. And the acting chairman, up until that time, could not have meetings with any of the members of the board unless I was there. But this time, he did not invite me to this meeting. So as I would walk in on them, they would stop. Then the director would look at me and judge with a smirk on their face, and I would leave. So they would continue. So later on, one of the directors called me to tell me what was happening. That's how I got to find this out. The point of it is this. We are not honest. A lot of us are not honest. Those are those ones in government. And also some of them are contended with very, very personal problems having to do with poverty, having to do with family issues and all that. So for that reason, sometimes they get compromised. I'm not in any way preferring solution. I don't know, but that was my experience. I just hope in the end, we will have enough people that will be willing to take up position where they will actually do right in the best interest of the people. I think that's when we'll begin to make headway towards solving all this issue. I submit, I rest my case. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience.
Thank you for that. So there was no resolution. There was no way that you addressed that issue of your your colleagues circumventing.
He didn't admit to participate. In fact, it was a setup for me because he knew what we were investigating. He was a part of it, but he set me up to investigate a matter in which he was a culprit. How was I going to ever make progress in such a situation? So I saw it as an exercise in futility. So I personally withdrew from it. I decided not to go for that because I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. And if you notice today, some of the people we talk about corruption, talk about EFCC, because I heard Pastor Sonny gave the context of so many people with their cases pending and all of that. The thing is that who is going to probe who? They are all involved. They are all at some point. The difference between them is the degree of their involvement, period. That's a fact.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
so much. Over to you, Pastor Sonny. I don't see other, there are no hands up.
Okay, don't be tired. This is the country that we are in. It's a lot to take in. But look, we are doing this because we believe that there is a way out. And that's why we'll continue to do this. You know, I've had different opinions, different views. I mean, you're all right in one way or the other. And those that say we have to engage the people, we have a change in orientation and the way we engage. I absolutely agree. But, there's a proverb in my place, and Dove will probably know this, that when a tree fall, and it's a common proverb in Africa, when a tree fall upon the tree, when there are so many trees, how do you start to solve the problem? You start by removing the tree at the top. You don't try to get the one in the middle or the one at the bottom. And there is a drill down that we need to do. And we are hoping that we'll be able to engage, hold leadership at the top. Because there's a video of retired Justice Amina Ogi, and I'm sure many of you have seen it. It went viral. And she spoke, when she was transferred to Lagos, the corruption and everything that was in the judiciary. What did she do? I mean, the system. She said all the registrars, the people in the court processes, but she had to set the tone from the top that when they knew that she stood for integrity, straightforwardness, and honesty, everybody followed in line. And those that were like principalities in the place, she got them sacked or transferred. And every other person fell in line. Now, if we had gone there begging the clerk, you guys know the right thing, change your mind now, do this and that, look, we'll be there forever. But when they saw a leader that could punish them when they did wrong, and the leader herself was doing what was right, and they could see it. And the reason why corruption strives is because the policeman on the road knows that DPO is chopping bribe. DPO know commissioner is taking. Commissioner know that IG is taking. So, look, they will tell you. I mean, police tells you on the road that, look, Oga, this now our own, Oga, they chopping you for office. But if Oga is not chopping, tell me who burned that police on the road to go and do it? So it's not a question of begging them to change their mind. No, sir. Me, I believe in, if I'm doing the right thing, I insist every other person below me must do the right thing, or I punish them, everybody bears the consequence. And if the people elected me, if I do the wrong thing, I surrender myself to be punished by the people or the court or the system. I keep saying that, Pastor asked me one time in our first interview, that time he used to ask, if you are the president, what will you do? How many of you remember that? And when he asked me, I said, if I'm the president, what I will do, I will fix the police and the judiciary. I will fix those two institutions and grant them independence. Just like the other man, the Singaporean man was saying, that they have graded authority for investigation. If police will go after you without fear of president calling me, governor calling me, anybody, and then they take you to court, the court will deal with you fairly based on the merit of your case. Oga, nobody will tell us in this country. We will all align. So if we fix these two institutions, because where there's no justice, there can't be peace, there can't be progress. People can't get justice, so there can't be peace and progress. Anyway, we can debate this thing and we'll continue to debate it. You'll join us on our various social media platforms as we carry this matter to that place, and we'll continue to talk about it. But for today, I really want to appreciate everyone that has contributed and participated in this very conversation. Issues plaguing us in Nigeria. We'll keep talking about it, and the few things we have put forward, we'll see how we can gauge everyone to be part of what we are doing. And we hope, we pray, we see a better Nigeria. Somebody had asked me about the religious, and I will leave that one till another day. I won't talk about the religious leaders.
That one is a topic on its own. Religious leaders, and traditional leaders.
Their role and their impact and what they do would create another topic for that. So I really want to thank everybody. I think Pastor Ito has left.
Yes.
I see Ufot Ime. After a very long time, I see you on the platform. It's nice to have you here. That's great. I acknowledge you. Who else did I see now? Okay, that's all right. I think it's due. We're due for closure. Jumoke, you can run.
Before you close, I just want to also tell everyone that I put a link in the chat room. This is to engage with ALG. We really need all hands on deck. Pastor Sonny is working on a community development initiative that he will probably be rolling out. We are also working with Shehu and trying to work with other civil society organizations on that tool that Shehu had presented, I believe was last week. And then we have the dashboard. So please be engaged. Our information is on our website. This is not something we can do on our own. And share the flyer, share the information, share the link about NLS. The more people are involved in this, the more we can really get this going. Someone said, how come there are only about 30-something people on the platform when we are discussing such important issues? And this is part of who we are. We need to be the ones that take this gospel to the people. So thank you everyone for joining us. We are glad you could join us today, and we hope to see you next week, same time, same Zoom link, different topic, and same great host, Pastor Principal will be with us next week, and fully. So thank you, Pastor Onkuloga. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Good evening and have a great enjoy the rest of your week.
Good day.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a blessed
Thank
week.
you, Jumoke.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
week.
Thank you.
Okay, Pastor Sonny, Sister Jumoke.
My bishop, how are you, sir?
You don't come.
Pastor Itua, you didn't ask after me when you went to Princess Ekareo. Mo ti gbọ́.
Pastor Sonny,
good to see you.
Hey, Ime, how are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, wow, long time.
Yes, so is this nation building thing? We are there.
Okay, that was good.
Where is that? Where is that?
And we try to see what we can. But someone just said, like you said, I think we need to get inside the field with them because.
Sorry, Pastor Sonny, I just made you co-host. I have to leave for an 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you're
it's
host.
okay.
You can end it whenever you're ready.
I will.
Okay.
God bless you. Have a good evening, Sister Jumoke.
Thank you.
God bless you all. Pastor Sonny, God bless you. God bless everybody. And by God's grace,
Pastor Afolabi, God bless you.
God bless you. God bless your family.
Amen. Let's connect now. We'll talk later.
No, let's talk. I've been under the weather. That's why I didn't raise my hand.
Okay.
No,
all right.
we'll connect. We'll talk.
Yeah. It is well with you.
Amen.
Thank you, Olakunle. Thank you, Olaide and Olusegun. Omo. Shade. Beleo, you are here. You just kept quiet. All right, everyone. I will end the meeting now. I'll see you again next week. I'll end the meeting for everyone. So bye-bye.